Welcome to this deep dive, where we unpack the essentials to keep you well informed. Today, we're tackling a really foundational piece of the information security puzzle, Annex A of ISO IEC 200.001.2022.
That's right.
Think of us as your guide, sort of walking you through this crucial set of security controls.
Exactly. And Annex A, well, it's basically your comprehensive checklist of controls when you're building out your ISMS, your Information Security Management System.
Okay.
It links directly back to clauses 5 through 8 of the 27002 standard. It gives you the practical how-to for those guidelines.
So if you're looking to really solidify your organization's security, understanding Annex A is, well, it's essential, isn't it?
Couldn't agree more. It's vital.
Our goal here is to walk through each control area step by step, like we're instructors breaking it down together.
And you'll see they're grouped quite logically. First up are the organizational controls. That's the framework, the overall structure.
Yeah.
And we'll get into people controls the human side of things. After that, physical controls the tangible stuff.
Right. Locks, doors, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And finally, the technological controls your digital defenses. We'll start right at the top with organizational, which maps to Clause 5 of 27002.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Let's dive into the first one under organizational controls. 5.1 Policies for Information Security. Now, this isn't just about having one big document called security policy, is it?
No, not at all. It's much more dynamic. It's about establishing, well, a living set of rules.
The living set.
Yeah. The standard really emphasizes defining them, getting them approved, and that includes both a main policy and maybe more specific ones for certain topics.
Okay.
But then also actively publishing and communicating them, making sure people actually know about them.
Right. It's one thing to write it, another to make sure, Bob in accounting has actually seen it and understands it.
Precisely. And they aren't static documents either.
Good point. They need updates.
Absolutely. They need regular reviews, planned intervals, the standard says. But also, crucially, whenever significant changes happen.
Like what kind of changes?
Oh, could be a new technology, a big shift in business direction, maybe even changes in the threat landscape itself.
Yeah.
If things evolve, the policies need to evolve too.
And it's not just for internal folks, is it? The standard mentions acknowledgement by personnel and interested parties. Why interested parties?
Well, think about contractors, maybe key suppliers. Security is often a shared responsibility, right? Getting that acknowledgement, it shows awareness of obligations. It helps build that security culture. And when policies change, that loop makes sure everyone's working off the latest version.
Okay, that makes sense. Clear, living, communicated policies.
Got it.
Next up, 5.2 is information security roles and responsibilities. Seems obvious someone needs to be responsible, but I'm guessing it's more than just appointing a security person.
You're right. It's much broader. This control really stresses clearly defining and allocating roles and responsibilities across the whole organization, tailored to its needs, of course.
So who owns what piece of security?
Exactly. Who is accountable for keeping specific types of information safe? It needs to be formal, written down, communicated, no ambiguity.
So it's not just the CISO's job. It could be the HR manager having responsibility for certain data or finance for another.
Precisely. From top to bottom, everyone needs to understand their part. If it's not clear, things inevitably fall through the cracks. This makes sure everyone knows their security duties.
Okay, number 3, 5.3, segregation of duties. This sounds like a classic internal control principle, doesn't it? Preventing too much power in one place.
That's exactly the heart of it. Segregating conflicting duties is, well, fundamental. It's about preventing potential breaches, fraud, errors.
How does it work in practice?
The idea is to structure things so one person can't complete a really critical task, or maybe a series of tasks, all by themselves without any oversight. It's like built-in checks and balances.
So the person who can, say, add a new supplier to the payment system shouldn't also be the one who can approve the payments to them.
Exactly that kind of thing. That separation makes it much, much harder for someone to act maliciously or even just make a big mistake without it being caught. Adds accountability, reduces single points of failure.
Makes sense. Control 5.4 brings in management responsibilities, reinforcing that security needs that top-level buy-in.
Oh, absolutely critical. Management at all levels has a direct responsibility here. They need to actively require everyone to apply security according to the policies.
So leading by example.
Yes, and making sure security is part of the day-to-day operations, not just an afterthought. Without that commitment from the top, security initiatives often, well, they just fizzle out.
Okay. Shifting to external connections now. 5.5 is Contact with authorities. Knowing who to call when things go wrong, right?
Basically, yes. It's about setting up and maintaining clear communication lines with the relevant authorities.
Like law enforcement?
Could be law enforcement for cybercrime, yes, or regulatory bodies for compliance issues, maybe even emergency services for physical incidents. Knowing who to contact and when is vital for response and compliance.
And similarly, 5.6, contact with special interest groups. Why connect with these groups? Security forums, associations.
Well, it's about tapping into the wider community. Engaging with these groups gives you access to the latest threat information, emerging best practices. You can network with peers.
Learn from others' experiences.
Exactly. It's a huge pool of collective knowledge. Can
Yeah.
really boost your own security posture.
Okay. Now, 5.7 introduces threat intelligence. Sounds proactive. Understanding the dangers out there.
That's the goal. Organizations need to actively collect, process, and analyze info about threats, vulnerabilities, attackers, the whole picture.
Not just collecting data, though.
No. The key is turning that data into actionable intelligence. Information you can actually use to inform your controls, maybe anticipate attacks, ideally prevent them.
Right, shifting from reactive to proactive. Then 5.8 brings security into information security and project management. So security from the very start of a project.
Absolutely. Security needs to be woven into every phase. Planning, design, implementation, even closure.
Not just bolted on at the end.
Exactly. If you try to add security later, it's usually less effective and, frankly, more expensive to fix things. Baking it in is the way to go.
Makes sense. Control 5.9 is about knowing what you actually have. Inventory of information and other associated assets. Why is this so fundamental?
Simple, really. You can't protect what you don't know you have.
Good point.
So this requires organizations to develop and maintain a full inventory. Information assets, data, systems, apps, but also associated things like hardware, software. And crucially, who owns it?
So that inventory is the baseline.
It's the essential foundation for risk assessments, for applying the right controls. You need that visibility first.
Okay. Building on that, 5.10 now is acceptable use of information and other associated assets, setting the rules for employees.
That's it. Clear, documented rules, what's okay, what's not okay, when using company information and assets.
Covers laptops, internet, handling data.
Everything. Laptops, internet, mobile devices, how to handle sensitive data, you name it. And communicating these rules clearly is vital to prevent misuse, accidental or otherwise.
Control 5.11, return of assets. Seems basic, but I bet it gets missed sometimes when people leave.
It's fundamental, but yes, needs a solid process. When some employee, contractor ends their relationship with the organization, there must be a process to get all assets back.
Laptops, phones, badges.
Laptops, badges, documents, access tokens, everything. Prevents data breaches, unauthorized access after they've gone.
Okay. Now, 5.12 shifts to sensitivity. Classification of information. Not all data is created equal, is it?
Definitely not. Information needs classifying based on its sensitivity, its criticality.
How do you determine that?
You look at confidentiality needs, integrity requirements, how important it is for availability, also legal obligations, contractual requirements, what stakeholders expect.
And that classification dictates the protection level.
Precisely. High sensitivity data gets stronger controls than public information, for example.
And once it's classified, 5.13, labeling of information, makes that classification visible.
Yes. Clear procedures for labeling digital files, physical documents according to the classification scheme.
So people know how to handle it.
Exactly. That label is a visual cue. Handle this confidential document differently from this internal use only one. Reduces accidental mishandling.
Makes sense. Control 5.14 deals with information transfer, protecting data when it moves, inside or outside the company.
Both. Whether it's electronic, physical like a USB stick, or even verbal, there need to be rules, procedures, maybe formal agreements.
To protect it in transit?
Yes. Protect it during transit, both within the organization and when sharing externally. The level of security has to match the data sensitivity, of course.
Right. Now we're getting into who gets access to what, 5.15, access control. This has to be a cornerstone.
Oh, absolutely fundamental. Organizations must set up and enforce robust rules for controlling access, both physical access, getting into buildings or rooms, and logical access, getting into systems and data.
And what drives those rules?
Business needs, primarily, and the organization's security requirements. Always follow the principle of least privilege.
Least privilege.
Granting only the absolute minimum access someone needs to do their job. No more.
Okay. Then 5.16 focuses on identity management, more than just creating accounts.
Much more. It's the whole life cycle of a user identity. Creating accounts, yes, but also assigning the right access, modifying it when roles change, and crucially disabling or removing accounts promptly when they're no longer needed.
Keeping things tidy and secure.
Exactly. Making sure only the right people have the right access and that it stays current.
And following that, 5.17, authentication information. This is how users prove who they are. Passwords, tokens.
Correct. This deals with securely allocating and managing that authentication info, passwords, PINs, tokens, maybe biometrics, and also guiding people on how to handle it securely. Don't write passwords on sticky notes.
We've all seen it, though.
We have. Strong authentication is that critical first barrier.
Okay. Then 5.18, access rights, builds on that. Once you're authenticated, what can you actually do?
Precisely. Access rights to specific information or systems need careful handling. Provisioning, granting them initially. Regularly reviewing them. Are they still appropriate for the role?
What if someone changes jobs internally?
Promptly modifying rights then, and immediately revoking them when access isn't needed anymore, all strictly following the access control policies.
Okay, clear process.
Okay.
Now we shift focus a bit to external relationships. 5.19, information security and supplier relationships. Suppliers can be a risk point, right?
A huge one. Organizations need solid processes to manage the security risks that come with using supplier products or services. Breaches often happen via the supply chain.
So you need to check their security.
You need to ensure your suppliers meet security standards that align with your own requirements. Due diligence is key.
And 5.20 drills down on this. Addressing information security within supplier agreements needs to be in the contract.
Absolutely. Security requirements, what controls they must have, need to be clearly defined and formally agreed upon. In writing. In the contract.
Tailored to the supplier.
Tailored to the relationship, the type of service, the sensitivity of data involved. It needs to be an integral part of the agreement.
Okay, expanding on that, 5.21 targets. Managing information security in the ICT supply chain, tech suppliers specifically.
Yes, given how much we rely on complex ICT hardware, software, cloud services, this control highlights the need for dedicated processes just for managing those specific supply chain risks. You need to be vigilant about your tech partner security.
And it's not a one-time check. 5.22 covers monitoring, review, and change management of supplier services, ongoing oversight.
Exactly. You can't just vet them once. You need to regularly monitor, review, evaluate their security practices, how they deliver services, and manage any changes.
To make sure they stay secure over time.
Precisely. Ensure that required level of security is maintained.
It's continuous.
Then 5.23 specifically calls out information security for use of cloud services. Cloud needs special attention. It does present unique challenges compared to traditional on-premise IT. So yes, clear processes are needed for acquiring cloud services, using and managing them, and even exiting them, all while making sure your security requirements are met.
Okay. Now, shifting gears to incident response. 5.24, information security incident management planning and preparation. Being ready for the worst.
Absolutely paramount. You need to plan and prepare before an incident happens. Define processes, roles, responsibilities. Communicate them clearly.
Having a plan ready to go.
A well-documented, regularly tested incident response plan is essential for handling breaches effectively, when not if they occur.
And 5.25 is about assessment and decision on information security events. Not every blip is a major incident.
Correct. You need a process to assess events, weird log entries, alerts, and decide if they actually classify as an incident requiring the formal response plan. That initial triage is key.
Then 5.26, response to information security incidents. Once it is an incident, follow the plan.
Yes. This mandates that you respond according to those documented procedures. Ensures a consistent, effective, timely approach. Containment, mitigation, recovery.
Importantly, 5.27 emphasizes learning from information security incidents. Every incident is a lesson.
Absolutely. Afterwards, you have to analyze what happened, find the root cause, and use that knowledge to strengthen your controls, prevent it happening again. That continuous improvement cycle is vital for resilience.
And 5.28 covers collection of evidence, sometimes needed for legal reasons, right?
Or insurance,
Right.
or just understanding the attack. You need clear procedures for identifying, collecting, acquiring, and preserving evidence related to security events. Forensically sound. Maintain that chain of custody.
Okay. Moving towards continuity now. 5.29, information security during disruption. Keeping things secure even when normal operations are down.
Yes. Planning for how to maintain appropriate security during disruptions like a natural disaster or major outage. Security can't be forgotten in a crisis. It might be even more critical now.
And 5.3V focuses on the tech side of this. ICT readiness for business continuity, making sure IT can recover.
Right. ICT readiness needs planning, implementation, maintenance, and regular testing, all aligned with business continuity objectives, ensuring critical systems and data can be recovered promptly after a disruption.
Okay. Now for legal and compliance. 5.31, legal, statutory, regulatory, and contractual requirements. You have to know the rules you operate under.
Non-negotiable. You must identify, document, and keep up to date with all relevant legal, statutory, regulatory, and contractual requirements related to your information security. Vital for avoiding penalties, maintaining trust.
Then 5.32, protecting intellectual property rights. Big one for many companies.
Huge. Procedures must be in place to protect valuable IP from unauthorized access, use, disclosure, destruction. Technical controls, legal agreements, awareness training, a mix of things.
And 5.33 focuses on protection of records. Business records need safeguarding.
Absolutely. Physical or digital, records need protection from loss, destruction, falsification, unauthorized access, or release. Good record management is key for accountability, audits, operations.
Control 5.34 tackles privacy and protection of personally identifiable information, PII. Hugely important today.
Critically important. Organizations have to meticulously identify and meet all requirements for preserving privacy and protecting PII. According to laws, regulations, contracts, it means technical measures, organizational measures, transparency.
Okay, now for oversight. 5.35 suggests an independent review of information security, getting an outside look.
Highly valuable. The organization's whole security approach, people, process, technology, should get an independent review periodically or after big changes. Provides an unbiased assessment, spots things internal reviews might miss.
And 5.36 is about checking compliance with policies, rules, and standards for information security. Are people actually following the rules?
You need regular reviews to verify compliance. Are people following the main policy? The specific ones. Internal rules, external standards. Find deviations, fix them.
Finally, for organizational controls. 5.37, documented operating procedures, having written instructions for key tasks.
Essential for consistency and effectiveness, especially for information processing facilities. Documented procedures for routine operations, maintenance, anything security related. And make sure they're available to the right personnel.
Okay, wow, that was a deep dive into organizational controls. Feels like the bedrock. Now let's move to the second major category. People controls, Clause 6 of 27,002. First up, 6.1, screening. Background checks for new hires.
That's the idea. Before bringing people on board, conduct appropriate background verification checks.
What's appropriate, though?
It depends. You have to consider laws, ethics, business needs, the sensitivity of the data they'll access, the perceived risks of the role. It needs careful thought. Sometimes ongoing screening might be needed, too, for high-risk roles.
Right. Then 6.2, outlining security responsibilities in the terms and conditions of employment, putting it in the contract.
Yes. The employment agreement should clearly state the security responsibilities, both for the employee and the organization. Makes it clear and legally binding from day one.
Control 6.3 is about ongoing learning, information security awareness, education, and training, keeping everyone sharp on security.
Absolutely crucial. All personnel, maybe relevant contractors too, need ongoing awareness, education, and role-specific training. Regular updates on policies, procedures relevant to their job, an informed workforce is a stronger defense.
Makes sense. 6.4 addresses the need for a disciplinary process, consequences for breaking the rules.
There have to be. A formal, communicated process for handling security policy violations. Applied consistently and fairly, it reinforces the importance of following the rules.
Control 6.5 looks at responsibilities after termination or change of employment. Security duties don't always end when someone leaves.
That's correct. Some responsibilities might continue, like confidentiality. These need to be defined, enforced, and communicated, maybe reminding them about returning assets too.
Okay. And 6.6 covers confidentiality or non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, formal agreements to protect sensitive info.
Yes. Where needed, identify, document, review, and get signatures on NDAs from personnel, contractors, anyone accessing sensitive information. Clearly outlines the need for protection.
With remote work being so common, 6.7, remote working is a big one now.
Huge. Specific security measures are needed for the risks of remote work, protecting information accessed, processed, or stored outside the office walls.
Like VPNs, device security.
VPNs, endpoint security, maybe restrictions on personal device use, data encryption, A whole range of things.
And lastly, for people controls, 6.8, information security event reporting, making it easy for people to report issues.
Vital for early detection. Need a clear, accessible, trusted way for anyone to report suspected security events or weaknesses promptly, without fear of blame. Encourage that vigilance.
Okay, covered people controls. Moving on to the third category. Physical controls, Clause 7. Control 7.1 starts with physical security perimeters, fences, walls, guards.
Exactly. Those first lines of defense. Clearly defined perimeters to protect areas with information and assets from unauthorized physical access. Controlling who gets close.
Then 7.2 is about physical entry into those protected areas. Badges, biometrics?
Yes, managing entry points. Secure areas need proper entry controls. Could be card readers, biometrics, guards, visitor logs, tracking who goes in and out.
And 7.3 is securing offices, rooms, and facilities. Security inside the perimeter.
Right. Internal security matters too. Designing physical security for specific offices, server rooms, sensitive areas, locked doors, secure cabinets, access lists for those specific spaces.
Control 7.4 emphasizes physical security monitoring. Watching those controls. CCTV, alarms.
You need to monitor, especially secure areas. Continuous monitoring for unauthorized access or suspicious activity. CCTV, patrols, alarms, ways to detect breaches.
And 7.5 broadens the scope to protecting against physical and environmental threats. Fires, floods, vandalism.
Yes, proactive design against all sorts of physical and environmental threats, natural disasters, but also intentional acts like theft or sabotage or even accidental damage or utility failures. Fire suppression, UPS, secure construction help here.
Control 7.6 covers working in secure areas. Special rules for sensitive zones.
Often, yes. Heightened security measures might apply when working inside designated secure areas. Maybe no personal devices allowed, specific document handling rules, dual authorization for some actions.
Control 7.7 is the classic clear desk and clear screen policy. Basic security hygiene.
Basic, but effective. Clear desk rules no sensitive papers or USB drives left out when unattended. Clear screen rules lock your computer when you walk away. Define them, enforce them. Prevents opportunistic snooping or theft.
Okay. 7.8 is equipment siting and protection, where you put servers and how you lock them down.
Exactly. Site critical or sensitive equipment securely. Minimize risks from unauthorized access, theft, environmental hazards. Use locked racks, maybe environmental controls for temperature and humidity.
And 7.9 addresses security of assets off premises, laptops taken home, backups stored elsewhere.
Right. When assets leave the main premises, you still need security. Ensure confidentiality, integrity, availability of the info on them. Encryption is key here, maybe tracking, secure transport for media.
Control 7.net is about managing storage media. Hard drives, USBs, tapes.
The whole life cycle. From buying them, using them, transporting them, to finally disposing of them. Management must align with classification and handling rules. Secure wiping or physical destruction is crucial at the end.
Then 7.11, supporting utilities, power, cooling. Their failure is a security risk.
Absolutely. Information processing facilities need protection from utility failures, power, HVAC, water, backup power, UPS generators, maybe redundant feeds. Environmental monitoring help maintain operations securely.
Control 7.12 is cabling security, protecting the wires.
Often overlooked, but yes. Cables carrying power or data need protection from tapping or damage, intentional or accidental. Secure routing, conduit preventing easy disconnection.
And 7.13, equipment maintenance, keeping things running securely.
Correct maintenance ensures availability, integrity, confidentiality, regular checks, timely repairs, ensuring maintenance itself doesn't introduce vulnerabilities, following manufacturer guidance.
Lastly, for physical, 7.14, secure disposal or reuse of equipment, getting rid of old computers safely.
Critical. Before disposing or reusing equipment with storage, verify all sensitive data and licensed software is gone. Securely wiped using approved methods or physically destroyed prevents major data leaks from discarded hardware.
Okay, on to the final category. Technological controls, Clause 8. Control 8.1 starts with the devices people use daily. User endpoint devices, laptops, phones.
Exactly. Information on, processed by, or accessed via endpoints needs protection. Laptops, desktops, mobiles, tablets, and a mix of things. Encryption, strong passwords or biometrics, keeping software patched, maybe mobile device management, MDM policies, layered defense.
Control 8.2 tackles privileged access rights, admin accounts, super users, powerful stuff.
Very powerful. So need strict control. Restrict who gets privileged access, manage it carefully, review it regularly. Least privilege applies strongly here. Only the minimum needed. Plus, strong authentication and a detailed logging for these accounts.
Makes sense. 8.3 reinforces information access restriction, need-to-know basis.
Fundamentally, yes. Restrict access to information and assets based on the access control policy and least privilege. Use technical controls like access control lists, ACLs, role-based access control, RBAC, to enforce it.
Control 8.4 gets specific. Access to source code, important for software development shops.
Very. Read-write access to source code, development tools, libraries needs tight management, protects against unauthorized changes, vulnerabilities being introduced, protects IP, access based on developer rules.
Control 8.5 revisits secure authentication, but maybe focusing more on the tech side.
Yes, implementing robust authentication tech and procedures, strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, MFA, biometrics. The strength should match the risk and sensitivity of what's being accessed, as required by the access control policy.
Okay. 8.6 is capacity management. Having enough IT resources, server power, bandwidth. How is that security?
Well, insufficient capacity can cause instability, poor performance.
Which could lead to security issues.
Exactly. Systems might crash, logs might not get processed properly if things are overloaded. So monitor resource use, plan capacity to meet current and future needs. It supports availability and proper security functioning.
Ah, I see. 8.7 is a big one. Protection against malware, viruses, ransomware.
A constant battle. Need comprehensive, up-to-date malware protection, antivirus, anti-malware, maybe intrusion detection prevention across all relevant systems.
Tech alone isn't enough, though.
Definitely not. User awareness is crucial. People clicking on malicious links is still a primary infection vector.
Yeah.
So training is vital alongside the tech.
Right. 8.8 is management of technical vulnerabilities,
Right.
patching systems.
Essentially, yes. Actively get info on new vulnerabilities in your software and systems. Evaluate your exposure. Implement measures, usually patching promptly and effectively, reducing that window of opportunity for attackers.
Control 8.9 is configuration management. Knowing how your systems are set up and keeping them that way.
Precisely. Establish, document, implement, monitor, and review configurations, especially security settings, for hardware, software, services, networks. Ensures a secure, consistent baseline and helps spot unauthorized changes.
Control 8.NES is about information deletion, getting rid of data securely when it's no longer needed.
Yes. Minimizes the data footprint. If data isn't needed for business or legal reasons, securely delete it or make it irretrievable. Reduces the impact if a breach does happen. Helps with data retention policies, too.
Control 8.1 discusses data masking, hiding sensitive data for testing.
Right. Obscuring or replacing real sensitive data with realistic but fake data. Allows you to use it for testing, development, analytics without exposing the actual sensitive info. Use it according to access policies and legislation, of course.
And 8.1 is data leakage prevention, DLP, stopping data from leaving accidentally or maliciously.
That's the goal. Apply DLP measures to systems, networks, devices handling sensitive info. Tools to detect and block unauthorized data transfers out of the organization.
Control 8.13, the essential information backup, and testing those backups.
Absolutely essential. Maintain regular, comprehensive backups of critical information, software, systems, as per your backup policy. And test the restores regularly. Backups are useless if you can't restore from them.
Good point. 8.14 is redundancy of information processing facilities, failover system.
Yes, implementing enough redundancy to meet availability needs. Backup servers, redundant network paths, failover clusters, minimize disruption if a primary component fails.
Control 8.15 covers logging, recording what happens on systems.
Crucial for monitoring and investigation. Produce logs of significant activities, exceptions, faults, store them securely, protect them from tampering, analyze them regularly. They provide that vital audit trail.
And 8.16 is monitoring activities, watching those logs and systems for weird behavior.
Proactive monitoring, watching networks, systems, apps for anomalous behavior. Deviations from the norm. When you see something odd, investigate promptly. Evaluate potential incidents. Early detection is key.
Control 8.17, clock synchronization. Seems small, but important.
Very important for correlating logs. All system clocks need to be synchronized to reliable time sources. If timestamps are off across different systems, piecing together an incident from logs becomes incredibly difficult, almost impossible.
Right. 8.18 is use of privileged utility programs, tools that can bypass normal controls.
Yes, things like system debuggers or low-level disk editors. Powerful tools. Their use needs to be strictly restricted, tightly controlled, heavily audited, prevent misuse that could wreck security or integrity.
Control 8.19, installation of software on operational systems, managing that securely.
Need clear procedures. Verify the software source and integrity. Test it first, ideally. Ensure the installation doesn't introduce vulnerabilities or unwanted extras. Control what gets put onto production systems.
Control 8.20 is broad, network security, firewalls, segmentation.
All of that. Securely configure, manage, control networks and devices. Protect the information flowing through them. Firewalls, IDS, IPS, secure segmentation, wireless security, foundational network hygiene.
Then 8.21, security of network services, like email, web servers.
Yes, identify the security mechanisms, service levels, requirements for each network service. Implement them, monitor them, make sure they're providing the necessary protection for the data they handle.
Control 8.22 is segregation of networks, dividing the network into zones.
Right. Segregate different services, user group systems based on sensitivity or function, logically or physically. Helps contain breaches. If one zone is compromised, it's harder for it to spread. Allows for more granular controls too.
Control 8.23 covers web filtering, blocking bad websites.
Managing access to external sites, yes. Reduce exposure to malware, phishing, other web threats. Yeah. Can also enforce acceptable use policies.
Control 8.24 is use of cryptography, encryption, key management.
Essential for confidentiality and integrity. Define clear rules for using cryptography effectively. And that includes robust key management, generating, storing, distributing, destroying keys securely. The whole life cycle.
Okay, now shifting towards development. 8.25, Secure Development Lifecycle, SDLC, building security in.
Exactly. Establish rules and security activities for the entire development lifecycle, from requirements and design through coding, testing, deployment, maintenance, security at every stage.
And 8.26 is defining application security requirements upfront.
Yes. When developing or buying apps, identify, specify, and approve the security requirements early on. Make security a core consideration from the start.
Control 8.27 involves secure system architecture and engineering principles, designing systems securely.
Applying fundamental principles. Defense in-depth, least privilege, secure defaults. Establish these, document them, apply them consistently to all system development, build a more robust architecture.
Then 8.28 is secure coding, writing code that avoids vulnerabilities.
Right. Applying secure coding principles, input validation, output encoding, handling errors securely, avoiding common flaws. Training developers and doing code reviews helps embed this.
Control 8.29 covers security testing in development and acceptance, finding flaws before release.
Critical. Define and implement security testing processes throughout development. Vulnerability scanning, penetration testing, code reviews, especially before final acceptance. Catch things before they go live.
What about outsourced development? 8.30, still the organization's responsibility.
Absolutely. If you outsource development, you're still responsible for the security. Define requirements in the contract, monitor the provider's activities, review their security practices, due diligence.
Control 8.31 recommends separation of development, test, and production environments. Don't test in live.
Please don't. Separate environments, dev, test, prod. Secure them individually. Prevents testing activities from accidentally impacting the live production system or exposing production data.
Control 8.32 is implementing change management, controlling changes to IT systems. Essential. All changes, hardware, software, network, must go through a formal change management process. Authorized, tested, implemented carefully, documented. Minimizes disruption and security risks from unplanned changes. Control 8.33 addresses test information, protecting sensitive data used in testing.
Yes. If you use real data for testing, select it carefully, protect it rigorously. Masking or anonymizing sensitive data is the ideal approach, replacing it with synthetic data if possible. Don't expose real customer PII in test environments.
And finally, 8.34, protection of information systems during audit testing, making sure security tests don't break things.
Right. Audit tests or penetration tests on live systems need careful planning. Agree on the scope, timing, methods between the testers and management. Minimize disruption and risk to the operational systems during the assessment. Collaboration is key.
Wow, okay. That was an incredibly detailed journey through all the controls in Annex A. It's really clear how comprehensive this framework is for managing security risks.
It really is. And as we've seen, Annex A is the practical toolkit you use alongside Clause 6.1.3 of the main 27001 standard, the part about risk treatment.
So when you figure out your risks, you look to Annex A for potential controls.
Exactly. It's that comprehensive catalog of options to consider and potentially implement to bring those risks down to an acceptable level.
So this deep dive hopefully gives everyone a solid grasp of the practical steps involved in building and running an effective ISMS.
I hope so. And it really underscores that security isn't just tech, is it? It's organizational processes, it's people's awareness and actions, it's physical security and technology all working together.
It's holistic.
Definitely.
So a final thought for everyone listening. Reflecting on all these controls, which area, organizational, people, physical, or technological, do you think presents the biggest challenge or maybe the biggest opportunity for improvement in your own context? Certainly gives you a lot to chew on.
It does.
And if you want to go even deeper, we definitely recommend checking out the full ISO/IEC 27001 and 27002 standards themselves. Until our next deep dive, stay secure.